Welcome to Healing Your Family Legacy, here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Innovative, evidence-based recovery that helps to identify intergenerational trauma, allowing for freedom and embracement of the healing process. Today, episode 144, Keeping Your Marriage Healthy. And now your host, Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee.
I'm Dr. Donna. Welcome to my podcast. So last time I talked about parenting and using the word no so that your children will develop resilience and learn how to deal with the world and life on life's terms. Today I want to talk about, it kind of goes into your marriage, your relationship, your primary relationship. And that is that even in the best relationships, having children changes your relationship, changes your marriage. And, I've been reading more about that. And, because of my line of work and what I've done for the last 50 years, I know for a fact that relationships have challenges all along the way. If you don't have challenges, then, I'm not talking about fighting. You don't need to have fights, okay? I know that you can have disagreements and you might have to, sometimes wonder, what am I doing here? Because this disagreement has caused me so much distress. But it's not possible for two people who are sharing the same space emotionally, psychologically, and physically not to have challenges. It's just not possible. If you grew up in any kind of family, you remember that. You might have thought, well, this family's just crazy because there's so much fighting and bickering. It's like, okay, well, there's extremes. But in any family, there are going to be conflicts. It can be, I remember, this is kind of a funny story, but I remember my niece that I adore and her husband they have 3 children now, but their first child is just wonderful. He's just delightful. I love him so much. But when he was 2.5 or 3, the second child came along, and they prepared him and he was all excited for this new baby sister to show up and he was very excited. And after about a week or so, said, how are you doing with your new baby sister? And he just looked right at his mother, just was about as serious as could be and said, take her back to the hospital. So it's like, he had a little conflict with, having to, now I've got to share you guys. Are you kidding me? I don't want to share you. And I just thought that was, because we all have conflict in families. We might love each other, but sometimes we'd like, I know there were a few moments that I wish my parents would take my sibling back to the hospital. I don't remember in that particular way, but, it's like that doesn't come from that. That just comes from conflict. It doesn't mean you don't love them. It doesn't mean you're not really happy they're there. It's conflict. And what I know to be true is that even, like I said, even the most harmonious marriages suffer when children come. It changes them. Okay, it changes the relationship. It changes the nature of the marriage. And if people aren't paying attention to it, it can destroy the marriage. Because when people get married, even if they have children, say it's their second marriage or something, it's like when those two people come together, it creates a new environment. It creates, it's like one of the things that young couples or first marriage couples have to do. And they think they've got it down by the time they get married. We've talked about these things. We understand, where the person, we know their families, and we embrace them, and, the whole thing. And then they get married and find out that this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, having jobs or whatever, it's like makes a stressful situation. And when children comes, it's just more stress. So you wonder, well, okay, so if that's all true, what do you have to do? Well, first of all, you have to act your age when you get married, and hopefully you're an adult. Because if you're not an adult and you get married, you're going to act like a kid. That's not going to help very much. So I'm talking about adults now. So the first thing is to act your age. And you might think, okay, what would that look like? Just imagine it in your mind. If I, say I'm married to somebody and we have a new kid in the house now, we have a baby or, a toddler or something. And I'm feeling ignored. It's like, okay, well, I go to work every day. I bring home money. It's hard work. I have a commute, blah, 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 blah. You've heard it all. You might have experienced it. And when I come home, it's like, I want some attention. What happens, I come home and you hand me the baby. Now it's my turn to take care of this child that is totally dependent and needy all the time when I want something from you. And that may sound selfish, but I tell you, self-care sometimes looks selfish. But what do you do in those situations? Even with a new baby in the house, the child must sleep sometime. In fact, they sleep a lot, okay? And it's true. They don't sleep necessarily when you sleep, so you got to sleep when they sleep and all that. So there's a lot going on. But you really can take 15 minutes in the evening or sometime during the day and check in with each other. And, you might just have it be a check-in where you're talking about what you've been doing during the day, or your joys and happinesses during the day, or, your frustrations during the day. And even if you have to use a timer, say, okay, we have 15 minutes before now I have to go do X, Y, or Z. So, let's time it. Each of us gets 7.5 minutes to talk about that. Or, what I've always told people to do is do a feelings check every day. There is a time every day when a couple can sit down and not just talk about the day, in air quotes, but how they felt during the day. And so, it might be something that sounds a little bit like this. I'll do a check-in right now so that you'll know what I'm talking about. So today, let me think. Did I have anger today? Oh, a little bit. Because I watched the news for 5 minutes. That made me mad. I think, okay, so what did I do? I turned it off. There's nothing I can do about that. But I did feel that for a minute. Did I have pain? I'm old. Of course I have pain. My body, I might feel young, but my body keeps reminding me that I'm not. So I had some physical pain. I had a little bit of emotional pain. I was, like I said, we've had a loss in our family. And I know that because we were taking care of Deb's mother for years, And for me, I just remembered all the time. I loved her. So, I felt the loss. But watching Deb go through what she's going through with this loss really kind of causes me a little bit of pain for her. And it reminds me of my own mother being gone. And I felt some pain about that. I also felt some sadness about all of that. And I still feel sad about all that. I'm sad for her going through this. I'm sad that her mother's not going to be with us anymore. I'm sad that, she's having to go through something I'm aware of. I know it's not easy. Let's see. Did I feel guilt today? Actually, no. I haven't done anything that I am feel guilty about. Ashamed today? Nope, I don't feel ashamed. But that shame thing, that's like a harmful shame thing, something like this. I should be ashamed of myself for X, Y, or Z, right? Versus, I do have a little bit of humility. I have some humility that, maybe you're listening to me. Or humility that I'm still here. That's nice. So, but I don't feel ashamed about anything. Joy. I feel joy. We've got blue skies here today, and it's going to be about 70, and that's about perfect. And so sometime today, I'll probably take a walk and hope that my knee doesn't hurt. But, so I have joy about that. I have joy about being on this planet and having the opportunity to live a life. I feel enormous joy that I get to FaceTime with my little grandson on a regular basis. I was feeling joy for my relationship because I have a relationship with someone who I respect and admire. And I think she respects and admires me back. So we get through our conflicts without fighting. We always have. We have lively conversations sometimes, but we don't fight. We don't call each other names. Ever. Never have. Never will. And I know that to be true because guess what? I can decide what I say. And so I have a lot of joy about that. And I have joy for living where I live, for having opportunities that I have, and for being able to take advantage of those opportunities when I can. Loneliness. Sometimes I feel a little lonely for my son and my daughter-in-law and their my little grandchild. I feel lonely sometimes. I'd really like if we were a little closer, but that's not to be. But not, loneliness is not a constant companion for me. I have people in my life that care about me, that I care about, and, because I do have those people in my life, when I'm not around all of them, I don't feel lonely. I just feel satisfied. So that, I probably told you more about myself in that short period of time than you may have told to your spouse or that your spouse may have told to you today. So you might know me better today than you know your spouse, unless you're doing this every day. Think about, I was honest about this today. I didn't make any of that stuff up. And so, you know who I am today. Now, tomorrow or later on today, that those feelings might be different, and I might share that or I might not if I don't feel like it. But my spouse and I have these conversations, have these check-ins on a fairly regular basis. And we would do it more often. But, we used to do it more often. Now I'm probably going to sound like I'm justifying, or rationalizing. We don't do them as often as every single day anymore. We're with each other almost all day. We check in all day about how we feel. So, I think that we do it just more frequently, but we don't have to take a chunk of time to do it because we have time to do it. If you have a family that you're taking care of, kids you're taking care of, you need to take care of this business. You need, and I don't usually tell people what they quote need. I usually give them suggestions about what they can do, but I'm telling you right now that if you don't do this with your spouse, especially when there's children, because if you have children or if you're both working all the time, you've got things on your plate. And if you don't take the time to check in with each other, I can promise this. One of you will start checking in with somebody else. And that can lead to danger. I mean, that's the stuff of emotional affairs. It's like if I'm talking to somebody else because I haven't been able to talk to my spouse, so I'm talking to somebody else about that. I really needed, him or her to be there for me. And, they're so busy with X, Y, or Z, they don't have time for me. And I'm telling that to somebody else. And if that somebody else is listening to me, then that somebody else probably likes me. And I might develop a stronger emotional bond with that person than I have with my spouse. And all by itself, that is an affair, an emotional affair. And then if you're talking about the other person and, putting them down and being disrespectful, that's even worse. At some point, that's probably going to develop into more than an emotional affair. And I've been a therapist long enough to hear about the pain and sadness and feelings of betrayal about an emotional affair. That hurts a lot if you're the spouse of somebody having an emotional affair. How do you stop that? If I could tell you the way to stop that is to tell each other what's going on in your life every day. Carve out some time. Another thing you have to think about if you're going to have a healthy marriage and a healthy relationship is that you must hold your partner in high esteem. That means that even if you're thinking in the moment, you might be thinking, that is so stupid. You might be thinking that. As long as it doesn't come out of your mouth or you don't act like you think they're stupid, like rolling your eyes or, that kind of deal. You're just listening and you might be thinking, that's really stupid. But you can also say in the next moment, because you can take care of that thought. Not necessary to have that thought. You can't control what comes into your brain, but you can control what you do with it. And you might say, oh, well, I forgot. We're all human beings, and sometimes we say and do things that aren't the brightest ever. We can be irrational at times, and we can be judgmental at times, and right now I'm judging, so I don't think I want to do that. And I hold that person in high esteem. And all that happened in your brain. It didn't have to happen anywhere else. So when I talk about holding someone in high esteem, I'm talking about treating them treating them, and that goes to what you say and what you do, treating them with respect and giving them dignity and, as it were, the grace and mercy for you to acknowledge that they're human beings just like you. You want it back? You want that grace, don't you? You want, if somebody, say you had a rough night with one of the kids, maybe they've been up all night sick. That happens. And in the morning, you look like hell. And you haven't slept. And you got vomit on front of your, pajamas. And your spouse says, thank you for doing that. I really appreciate that you were up all night and not me. So let me help you with this today. That's respect. That's care. It says that you matter to me, even if we have a crisis going on. You can do that. And it feels so much better to do that than to, do something that's not respectful and not acknowledging the work and time and attention and energy that person has given. So, you can take the time yourself individually to think about what your spouse has done for you today. There's got to be something, even if they let you get in the shower first. Okay? There's got to be something. You hold your partner in high esteem. And the other thing is, that I tell partners, because I tell them, I've said these things many times, is that you say first thing in the morning, first thing, as soon as you wake up, as soon as you're cognizant of your surroundings, you say in your mind, I know that he or she is going to do the best they can do today. I know they are. And, you don't have to think this, but they might, there might be some things that you feel angry or disappointed or, fearful about or whatever. But if you've already started the day thinking they're doing the best they can do, you can remind yourself that this wasn't on purpose and it wasn't at me. So I can still hold them in high esteem. Now, if you want to have that esteem back, you give it. If you don't want to be called names by your spouse, don't call them names. Now, I'm not saying that might, that cures it all. I'm just saying, because, I'm not taking into account things like drugs, alcohol, depression. When those things are going on, or someone is really critically ill, they might not have anything really to give you. And then you need to decide. It's like, do I want to stay married to an alcoholic? Do I want to get them treatment? Do I want to, that's a whole other story. If they are critically ill, it's called a vow. The vow you took was sickness and health. And if they're sick, then, and I'm not talking about sickness that they have control over, okay, like drugs and alcohol. They didn't mean to have it happen, but they certainly have some control over whether they get well or not, okay? I'm talking about like illnesses, cancers and Alzheimer's and, illnesses, PMS. I've had that before in my life. Boy, oh boy, that's a nightmare. But you don't mean to do it. So, you might have a reaction. But if you're holding your partner in esteem, you can think, I know that what's going on with them right now is not in their power. So I'm going to cut them some slack. Be merciful and give them some grace. And maybe they'll even say, I know that this is really hard for you. I know that you're going through a lot right now. What can I do, if anything, to support you? Not to fix it, not to help it, not to none of that. What can I do to support you? Whatever it is, if I can do it, I'll do it. You get so much farther in your life when you're able to do that with your partner. And like I said, you don't have to be accountable to anybody out there for your thoughts. You're only accountable for yourself with your thoughts. You are accountable for what you do and what you say with those thoughts. And so with your partners, or, even with your children, you want to be really sure what I'm going to say, what I'm going to do is exactly what I want. And here are the consequences I like. We never know what the consequences will be. But we think about that and then behave appropriately so that we have more opportunity to get the consequences that we would like to have. So, I'll talk about this again sometime. Keeping relationships healthy is not, it's actually pretty simple. It just isn't very easy. But it's worth it.
Thank you for listening to Healing Your Family Legacy here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. Healing Your Family Legacy is copyright 2023, Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.
Hey friends, Sean here, your Experience of the Soul producer. I want to take a moment to tell you about something truly exciting. The Soulworks online community, created by your host, Cynthia Alice Anderson, and available on the Mighty Networks app. If you're looking for a place where you can explore your spiritual path, connect with others, and grow in a meaningful way, then this is for you. Soulworks is so much more than an online community. It's a safe, inclusive space for spiritual exploration, self-discovery, and personal transformation. Inside the community, you'll find everything from uplifting spiritual studies to soul-centered growth practices, meditations, affirmations, and so much more. It's a space where you'll always be supported and never judged. The best part, membership is free. You'll have access to powerful resources, inspiring content, and a supportive group of like-minded people who are all on their own unique spiritual journeys. And if you're ready to dive deeper, there are premium options available to enhance your experience with a live Monday night talk series and extended, deeper meditations. If you're seeking a place to connect, grow, and nurture your soul, we would love to have you join us in the Soulworks community and see where this journey can take you. Visit my.soulworkscommunity.com today.